Hey there guys, it's me, Devianamagenta. We're back again with episode 2 of Pinocchio. So if you weren't there for episode 1, I put the link in the description, or I can just give you this quick little summary. So basically, Geppetto is a toy maker who makes Pinocchio using a block of wood that was given to him by his friend. His friend didn't want it because the block of wood talked sometimes, and that made him kind of uncomfortable about turning it into furniture. So Geppetto gets this block of wood and he makes it into a puppet, and the puppet turns out to be very naughty and runs away. And while Pinocchio is, out on about having adventures on his own, he has a very bad night. He winds up extremely hungry, and he winds up getting his feet burned off in a little bit of fire. So in the morning, he's all sad and he's back with Geppetto again, and Geppetto gives him his breakfast. And that's where we left off. So now we are back with Pinocchio and Geppetto. And Pinocchio, having finished the breakfast that Geppetto gave him, is feeling very full and content, and he's in a much better mood, but he's still very sad that he doesn't have any feet because they got burned off in the fire. So he's crying and lamenting, like, oh, boo-hoo, how can I ever be a good little boy if I don't have any feet? And Geppetto decides, like, well, serves you right for running away. So he's making Pinocchio feet, but he makes them in secret while he thinks Pinocchio is sleeping because he doesn't want Pinocchio to think he's making him feet. And the next morning when Pinocchio wakes up, Geppetto surprises him with the feet. And he's like, well, you were a very bad little boy, so I wasn't going to make you any feet, but I love you, so I made the feet anyway. And he fixes the feet onto Pinocchio's legs, and Pinocchio is super excited, and he's running and dancing, and like, yay, Geppetto, thank you for the feet. So Geppetto is like, all right now, you've been a very bad little boy, but are you going to go to school today? And Pinocchio goes, why, yes, of course I will go to school today. I will be the best boy in the whole wide world because you have made me these wonderful new feet, and you're the best papa ever. So Geppetto's like, all right, we shall send you off to school immediately. And then Pinocchio realizes, like, oh, wait a second, I don't have a spelling book. And now he's all sad because all the other boys are going to have spelling books and he's not going to have one. So Geppetto is like, well, I don't have any spelling books for you, but I will go and get one. So Geppetto leaves the house and he puts on his old tattered jacket and buttons it up nice and warm because it's really cold out today. And he goes to the market, but when he comes back, he's got a spelling book, but not his old tattered jacket. And Pinocchio realizes, like, oh snap, he sold the jacket to get me my spelling book even though it's really cold outside. And he's all like, oh no, Geppetto, you didn't have to do that. And Geppetto's like, no, the coat was too hot anyway, and also it was ugly. I didn't want that coat after all, so I sold it. I was planning to sell it already. And Pinocchio's like, are you sure? And Geppetto's like, yeah, sure. He's totally lying, and Pinocchio totally knows it, but it still makes him feel a bit better. And he sits down with some spare paper that had been wrapping the bread that he had this morning, and he cuts it up and makes it into a little jacket for Pinocchio so that he has some clothes other than the little wooden cap that he's got, and so he can fit in with the other little boys. And he sends Pinocchio off to school with his brand new paper jacket and his little spelling book that Geppetto bought with his own jacket. And as Pinocchio is walking to school, he's like fantasizing in his head, like, ah yes, today I will go to school and I will learn to read, and tomorrow I will go to school and I will learn to write. And with my fabulous reading and writing skills, I will make a business and get tons and tons of money, and I will buy Geppetto the best coat money can buy with a fur lining and diamond buttons. And he's like fantasizing to himself about how he's going to be a wealthy businessman and the best little boy that Geppetto ever did see, and he's going to buy Geppetto the nicest coat on earth, But as he's walking, he starts hearing this high music with, like, drums and piccolos and things, and he's like, what is that music? And it's like off to the right, whereas the path to school is ahead, and he's like walking down the path to school, and it sounds like he's getting closer to the music. He's like, what is that? I have to know. So he's like, well, school can't be that hard. I will go to school tomorrow, and today I will go and find out what that music is. So he hops off the path to school and skips along down some back alleyway until he comes to this building, well, more like a tent really, that's painted in all manner of bright colors. And from it, a great deal of music is coming, and people are gathered around it trying to see what's inside, you know, like, whoa, what's this? Hey. And he comes up to this little boy who happens to work at that tent, like one of the tent's apprentices, and he says, hey there, what's in this building? What's this building? And the boy goes, well, can't you read the sign? And Pinocchio's like, because he can't read the sign. And he's like, no, I can't read the sign. Can you read it for me? And the little boy goes, well, you see, it is a puppet theater. And Pinocchio's like, a puppet theater? Wow! Because he's never heard of such a thing before. He's the only puppet he's ever met. And the boy is like, yeah, it costs a dime to get inside. And Pinocchio's like, oh, phooey, I don't have a dime. And Pinocchio offers to sell the boy his little wooden hat. He says, I'll sell you my little wooden hat. And the boy's like, first of all, I'm pretty sure your hat's too small for me. Secondly, it's made out of wood. And thirdly, I don't buy from other little boys. And Pinocchio goes, okay, well, if you won't buy my hat, maybe you'll buy my jacket. And the boy goes, phooey, your jacket is made out of paper. Why would I buy that? The instant it rained, it would just deteriorate into nothing. So Pinocchio's like, oh, I will sell you my little school book. And the boy goes, boys don't buy from other little boys. And besides, I'm an apprentice. I don't need to go to school. So Pinocchio is very sad when suddenly another person in the crowd pipes up like, hey, I'll buy your school book. And sells it to him for a nickel. And Pinocchio's feeling really bad, but he's like, I will buy the school book back later. And everything will be alright. Geppetto doesn't need to know, hint, hint. So Pinocchio goes into this puppet theater and he sits down and the curtain goes up and all the puppets come out and they're having their, play and, sword fighting and there's, dramatic story and stuff when one of the puppets in the theater, stops for a second and, looks down at the crowd like, that's our cousin Pinocchio! Hey! Hey, Pinocchio, look! It's me! It's your cousin! And all the puppets turn and look and they see Pinocchio down in the crowd like, oh, Pinocchio, it's our cousin! Come up here, buddy! Come up! Come on! Hang out with us! Puppet family reunion! Pinocchio's all excited like, me? So he comes up onto the stage and all the puppets are hugging him and dancing and rejoicing. And they're like, yay, it's Pinocchio, our cousin Pinocchio. Oh, happy birthday. I mean, I missed your birthday yesterday, but happy birthday. And Pinocchio's like, yay. And all this commotion starts reaching the ears of the showman who was backstage. And the showman is a great ferocious man, very tall with a long black beard, and the puppets called him Fire Eater. And Fire Eater comes out onto the stage like, who's interrupting my play? You there! And he points right at Pinocchio. Pinocchio goes, oh! And he's like, you're interrupting my puppet theater. And he grabs Pinocchio by the back of his little paper jacket and carries him off stage and tells the other puppets, go on with the show. How dare you interrupt the show? Keep it up. And the puppets go back to their theater and, Fire Eater carries Pinocchio into the back room and puts him in a little box and sits on it. And he says, at the end of the puppet show, you and I will square our accounts. And Pinocchio's like, uh-oh, mistakes have been made. So at the end of the puppet show, Fire Eater brings Pinocchio out. He says, well, you see, I was roasting my mutton earlier today and have run out of wood, and you look like a nice, dry piece of wood. So you're going to atone for the interruption to my puppet show. And Pinocchio starts crying like, please don't throw me in the fire. I want to live. And Fire Eater is feeling deeply moved by this display of sorrow on Pinocchio's behalf, and he feels really bad. He's like, well, this puppet is just a little boy. I don't want to throw him in the fire, but my mutton still needs to get roasted. So he decides he's going to throw another puppet into the fire, and that puppet is all crying and sad too. But Fire Eater is unmoved. He's like, nope, this is my puppet. I'm going to throw it in the fire. And Pinocchio goes up to Fire Eater and he goes, well, don't throw that other puppet in the fire. They did nothing wrong. I'm the one who interrupted your puppet theater. Throw me in the fire instead. And Fire Eater is so moved by Pinocchio's show of bravery that he decides to pardon all the puppets and eat his mutton half raw for the night. So Pinocchio goes on his way. And that is the end of part 2. Stay tuned for part 3 next week. And on St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to do an Irish fairy tale for you guys. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, part 1 in the comments, or well, in the description, and when part 2 comes out, I'll also link it down there for the people who watch this video late. And you guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a lovely day.